Esther 2 verse 1 to 23 through the Bible. Chapter 2, Part 1. Theme: the beauty contest to choose the real queen. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Esther 2 verse 1. This verse begins, after these things. After what things? Well, the things that had taken place in the first chapter, and the campaign to Greece where Xerxes was soundly defeated. After his defeat, he returned in deep dejection to his palace. Added to his misery was the absence of his queen and the fact that the law of the Medes and Persians could not be altered, even by the king himself. Vashti could never again be his queen. We must turn to secular history for the campaign of Xerxes against the Greeks, since the Bible gives us no record of this campaign. He led a great army against the Greeks. The secret of the strength of the Persians was in numbers, but the individual Persian soldier was not as well trained as the individual Greek soldier. The Greeks emphasized the individual, and as a result, one Greek soldier could have taken care of 10 Persians. So at the battle at Thermopylae, only a few men could get in the narrow pass. As a result, the Greeks won a signal victory over the Persian army. It was an unfortunate defeat for Xerxes, but God was overruling. The power was about to pass from Persia to Greece. After his defeat and in his loneliness, he paces up and down in the palace every day. He is thinking of Vashti, but the law that he has made concerning the queen cannot be changed. He has set aside this beautiful woman, and he can never have her again. The servants know his state of mind, and they are watching him. They know that something must be done. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, Let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegi the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. Esther 2 verses 2 and 3. Members of the king's cabinet, occupying high positions, notice how moody and lonely the king is. They make a suggestion that there be conducted a beauty contest, and that the entire kingdom be searched for women who were beautiful. They were to be brought in from near and far. I am sure that the number of women chosen was in the hundreds. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Esther 2 verse 4. The king was to be the judge, the sole judge of this contest. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Esther 2 verse 5. The story in the book of Esther to this point has just been the window dressing, the stage props. We have had a glimpse into a heathen court. We have been introduced to the happenings there for a very definite purpose. It explains the beauty contest and how Esther came to the throne. Because she became queen, she was able to intervene and intercede in behalf of her people. An entire people would have been exterminated at that time had she not been in that position on the throne. We will begin to see the hand of God moving in the palace. Up to this point, there has been nothing spiritual in the palace. It was as godless as anything could possibly be. Drunken orgies were often held, but God is going to overrule. We are going to see his providence. He is arranging the events so that at the proper time he will have someone to intervene in behalf of his people, the Jews. Somebody is going to raise the question about this beauty contest and say, it looks as if God approves of beauty contests. No, I don't think he does. But, my friend, when a child of God gets out of God's will, he permits many things to happen of which he does not approve. And he will overrule through these events. God's overruling power is one of the important lessons in this little book of Esther. Many Christians today are living on the fringe of God's will. They are not really being directed by the will of God. They are not what we call in the will of God. Yet God directs them by His providence. Esther is an illustration of this. Actually, our story begins with a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai. He was of the tribe of Benjamin. The question that immediately arises is, what is he doing here? He belonged to the royal family of Israel. He was from the family of Saul, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away. Esther 2, verse 6. God had permitted His people to return to their own land, as He had prophesied through Isaiah. Cyrus had given a decree to permit them to return, and those who were in the will of God did return to Palestine. However, very few returned to their homeland. The greater number of them had made a place for themselves in the land of their captivity. They had learned shopkeeping from the Gentiles and elected to remain. They liked it. When they were free to go, they did not want to return to their homeland. Many of them, out of the will of God, chose to remain, and Mordecai happened to be one of them. He should have been back in the land of Israel, but, of all places, notice where he is, in the palace. He has a political job. You may remember that Joseph also had a political job in Egypt, yet he was in the will of God directly. Daniel in the court of Babylon was also in the will of God. But Mordecai is not in the direct will of God. You will see that the book of Esther is the book of the providence of God. As I have said, a popular definition of providence is this: providence is how God coaches the man on second base. And this man Mordecai is going to be brought home, although he is out of the will of God, and although he is not looking to God for help. Even at a time when you would think he and his people would turn to God, they do not. There is no mention of God or of prayer in this book at all because these people are out of the will of God.